Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this webinar by International Council for Circular Economy. ICC is a forum of some supremely talented people from an eclectic range of sectors with a common vision of going towards a society where sustainable development is the order of the day. Ubiquitous enough, what we stand for has to be what we stand on. Before we begin this webinar, I would like to extend my warm wishes on behalf of the International Council for Circular Economy. It gives me immense pleasure in welcoming all of you to this webinar on smarter business models in circular economy. ICC is the largest international network for professionals, corporates, and organizations working in circular economy in India. ICC operates in three strong pillars: educate, innovate, and inspire, to establish strong connections amongst the circular economy community. It shares best practices to have an impact at a local and global level simultaneously. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our speakers for today's webinar. So first, we have Professor Rajesh Kumar. Professor Brajesh has his BTech honors in civil engineering from IIT Kharagpur and PhD in environmental engineering sciences from University of Florida, USA. He is presently serving in the Division of Environmental Engineering and Management, Department of Civil Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, India. Dr. Dubey has nearly 20 years of research, teaching, training, and industrial outreach experience and has authored/co-authored more than 200 publications in his area of expertise and has presented at several national and international conferences and has worked as environmental expert for UN agencies, World Bank, and agencies such as National Geographic Society, USA. He has worked on integrated waste management projects in several countries, including USA, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, China, and Nigeria, among others. Next, we have Ms. Kaitly Sahardi with us. Kaitly has a career journey spanning 20 years in corporate real estate with companies like Kalpataru, Shapoorji Pallonji, and CBRE, leading, managing, and developing strategy across key geographies of India. Pausing her corporate career in 2018, she supplemented the existing architectural degree with an MBA from England, the primary focus being circular economy, which is now reckoned as a precursor to sustainability. The research she worked on in England reaffirmed the decision to bring awareness of this futuristic tool to the built environment in India. And now her aim is to help redefine growth in the real estate sector by focusing on positive society-wide benefits, thereby building economic, natural, and social capital. Climate crisis was always a looming threat, and now it's all hands on deck to restart the economy. She believes we begin now to integrate the thinking and planning required to build greater economic and environmental resiliency as part of the recovery ahead. We have Kristen Zegers with us. Kristen is a business administration engineer with 15 plus years of experience in business development and implementation of sustainable models in society. He has demonstrable experience in projects of circular economy, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and waste management. He is currently engaged in representing Chile in ISO 59010 TC323 Circular Economy, WG2 guidance for implementation and sectorial applications. He is designing and implementing circular business models for textile and plastic waste at Ripley, sustainably linking retail, startups, and ecosystem. He is developing a stakeholder engagement methodology for hydrogen supply chain in mining. Innova Corfa project, he is currently mentoring Blike, a sustainable mobility venture that innovates using GLOT. At last, we have Shalini Goel Bhalla with us. A post-graduate environmentalist, Shalini is a climate change visionary. She has been actively working in sustainability and developed a zero waste program, which helps entities to reduce their carbon footprint. Her project Zero made headlines when it was awarded by the Uttarakhand state government. An active social worker, she has several awards that add to her laurels. She has been recognized and awarded by Social Founder London, Global Goodwill Ambassador the US, ICUNR, India. Currently working as an advisor in sustainability and circular economy, she is chairing the International Council for Circular Economy. An active speaker, she takes up initiatives in promoting educational opportunities, leadership, development, entrepreneurship, and empowerment of youth and women. She's associated with MSME as Influencer 2019 in the circular economy sector and with Delhi government on their entrepreneurship mindset program. She's mentor to 7 women-led enterprises. Her first book happens to be the first book on circular economy in India. Our session today is on the topic smarter business models in circular economy. A circular business model conveys how an organization redesigns its system to deliver value to its stakeholders while minimizing ecological cost. Business models play a crucial role in the transition to a circular economy. Smarter business models rethink the conventional producer consumer relationships and the structure value chains. Our speakers today will be discussing the strategic plan of the process required for the business's models to increase the reuse potential and recyclability of products through refusing, rethinking, and reducing. With this, I will be asking my first question to Dr. Brajesh Dipe. Dr. Brajesh, you have worked with several government agencies in many countries on various environmental projects and have presented at several national and international conferences. What kind of circular business models have you seen emerging in the environmental sector in developing countries?
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon from India, and might be good morning, good evening from anywhere in the world. So in terms of environmental sector, I will focus mostly on waste management, which is kind of my core area, and maybe talk a little bit about the wastewater. So in terms of what, see, if you look at circular economy, there are different aspects. One is you look at longevity of the product, you try to make the product last longer, or you want to make the product in such a way so the recyclability is better and reusability of that product is better. And there are some in terms of looking at the supply chain. I think probably Christian will talk more about on the business and supply chain, all that as well. So from the environmental sector, especially if you look at the waste management, there are initiatives happening in India, around India, and so several other countries, since you asked about developing countries, several other countries like Indonesia, even you will see in Taiwan to some extent. I have an example from Chile. I think probably Christian might want to talk about that later as well. But so that's where we are seeing some work going on in terms of, say, we are working on development of food grade bottle to bottle recycling. Since before this panel started, among the panelists, we are talking about plastic waste. So there is an initiative. I'm not naming the company here, but there already been initiative in our country itself where people are working on development of food grade bottle to bottle recycling so that we can have recycling of the product. Then there is work on going on upcycling of waste to develop high quality eco-friendly material for building applications where it could be used in building applications. You must have heard about plastic to roads. There are some environmental issues associated with that. We can debate on that aspect, but there are some part of plastic is being used in roads as well. There are issues in terms of keeping that plastic clean. See, when we think about waste material in particular, we think that it's a waste. So, but waste also, if you are using it as a material, it has to be a clean waste. It cannot be a dirty waste. Then you cannot use it for any application. Then there are people are working on manufacturing of recycled flexible packaging product, which could be from a flexible plastic waste. There are some work going on in terms of integrating into having the digital solutions for transparent and traceable transaction between different stakeholders, because that's also very important. And in terms of, I was in, since you mentioned in the intro that I work with National Geographic, they had a plastic innovation challenge. And I was there as one of the judge last year, around the same time, actually, I was in Washington, DC, and where we had the participants from around the world and many newer like ideas came from the developing world. And one of the idea which got the #1 prize, it was from actually from Chile, Algramo, where they are working on convenient, smart, reusable packaging and they're right now piloting with Unilever Chile. I think Christian will talk more about that as well. Then we had some from Indonesia, where they were making for packaging of vegetables and fruits. They were having solutions where the packaging can be taken back to the market and can be reused several times. There were two entries from India itself, where we had one from Bangalore, where they were taking agricultural waste, leaves and other stuff, and they were making cutleries out of that, which can replace single-use plastic, which was again, it was a problem. Then we had a business model example of Kabaddi Connect, and so there were a lot of things are happening. So always glass is always half full, like for me, I look at it in a positive sense. So there are, of course, there are a lot of challenges out there, as we have been discussing earlier before, that there are challenges in terms of making things work at the ground, the policy angle, the entire EPR concept, how to implement that extended producer responsibility, how to get these small players to come up and make their business model work. Because see, subsidy can work only for maybe a few years. Subsidy cannot be there forever. So these businesses has to be on their own. So there are a lot of challenges associated with those aspects. And one of the biggest challenges I see is to keep the waste clean. I'll talk about that in more detail in the next segment. But that's where unless we have that, it's very difficult to make any business work. So, but these were some examples. There are several other examples out there. FICCI came out with a report, I think last year or year before, which also lists some of the other initiative which is happening. With something similar to Airbnb is where you can share the stuff, or even you can use the now Philips and others are giving the you can just loan the product from them. So there are a lot of model is developing, which is, you see more examples. If you're in California or Western European countries, you see initiative comparatively lesser initiative in developing countries, because developing countries has their own issues as well. Like we have a lot of population. We have to put food on the table for those populations. So the priorities are different, and our approach would be different as well. But I think if you look at from a traditional point of view as well, the way we used to manage waste in India, we had this kind of circular economy concept was already there in the beginning. In between, we lost it, but now again, we are kind of coming back to the same concept. So I think I'll stop here, and we'll talk about that later.
Thank you, Dr. Prajesh. That's very true. And thank you for answering that. I move on to the next question. And my next question is to Gayatri. Gayatri, as you know, being a major consumer of natural resources, there's an imperative need to build environment to obviate waste and increase efficiency. And by way of applying circular economy principles, one can decouple economic activity from the consumption of finite resources. How do new business models redefine the growth while focusing on building economic, natural, and social capital? Gayatri, you are not audible actually. No, we cannot hear you. You can try reconnecting your earpiece. Yes.
Now?
Yes, it's audible now.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry about that. So thanks, Sudaina, and good afternoon, everyone. So answering your question on the new business models. So like everybody knows, a business model is how a company creates, delivers, and captures value. So CE is a novel implementation and ownership of innovative patents, which are primarily driven out of the environmental concern. A number of companies have converted these concepts into a business proposition. For example, Ecovative, Cambrian Technology, Biome, they're all showing immense growth, and they've actually been able to achieve competitive advantage by creating this differentiated architecture. So for Ecovative, it's mushroom packaging and mushroom-based construction material. For Cambrian, it is practicing of product as a service, which Brijesh was mentioning about Philips. They practice product as a service in wastewater treatment. So till now, circular economy has actually given less evidence on how it balances out the three dimensions of people, planet, and profit. But let me assure you, as a construct, it engages all the aspects, maybe not in equal proportion. And for that, I've got examples of companies that I actually worked with and researched whilst in the last couple of years. And I am a true believer that circular businesses can be a good source of profit while also being a source for good. So companies can create value for their stakeholders while also simultaneously advancing economic and social conditions for the communities it operates in. So for me, it's been the built environment and real estate for the last 20 years. And like circular economy, it basically means minimizing external negativities, which in the built environment translate to the waste that's generated, climate change, water, soil, noise pollution, and also the less tangible impacts on human and animal welfare, health, employment, and social equality. We've all heard the term triple bottom line. Now, how does a company translate their triple bottom line? And that actually goes to state that how does it actually relate to the environmental and social well-being of the community at large, and by way of which they create shared value. And shared value is what my driver is when I am recommending circular economy as a strategy to companies. So I'll give you an example. I had a chance to closely work with a furniture company in the UK, and for their triple bottom line, they had the economic, social, and environmental propositions. So this particular company, they refurbish and remanufacture and also lease furniture. They practice primarily two business models: product life extension and product as a service. And for the environmental proposition, since they are repurposing and refurbishing, they're actually reducing the carbon footprint to almost 1/3, as against if they were actually working with virgin materials. Their economic proposition is they source locally, which I think kind of syncs up with what we've been hearing through the pandemic, vocal for local. And there's substantial savings, which they are able to offer to their clients, and they're thereby making them competitive in cost. Now, the social proposition that they have in their business model is, so we all know when jobs are created, it stimulates the economy. But this company offers the jobs to people coming from difficult backgrounds, primarily ex-convicts or rehabilitating drug users. So if you see, it actually hints at a lot of inclusivity of everybody, even if they're coming from difficult backgrounds. So while also researching, I came across a company which actually uses all its profits that they earn after practicing circular economy, and they provide loans to women in underprivileged nations. This is a company that makes swimwear out of ocean waste. So if you look at it, environmental decoupling from economic growth is the basis of circular economy, yes. And it drives most of the value propositions that companies have. But enough and more examples of companies are available which are providing jobs to locals. They're sourcing, adding to the local economy by sourcing locally, and also helping new businesses by providing loans. So by practicing CE, not only can you add to your own profit, but you can create shared value for the society at large. I hope that kind of answers your question that you had, how we can focus on building social and environmental capital while also looking at economic profits.
That definitely does, Gayatri. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that. And we will love to come back to you later and hear your views on more questions. My next question will be to Kristen. So, Kristen, like I mentioned in your introduction, you have been passionate towards leading and contributing in concrete and verifiable projects of circular economy, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and waste management. And you have been engaged in designing and implementing circular business models for textile and plastic waste. Could you shed more light on the business model?
Yeah, of course I can. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Actually, good morning from Chile and Latam. Thanks for the invitation and being here. And as you asked, and as the panelists said, we must not forget that a business model defines the way we create value, how we deliver it to the market, and finally, how we capture this value back. And in circular business model, capturing back this value is more complicated than in linear projects because we need to make them profitable. And most of the time, it's cheaper to think just linearly and not care about the social and environmental impacts. Most of the time, the evaluation matrices of projects does not incorporate environmental and social impacts. And in the circular business models, they do. So the biggest question here in Latam is, how do we make this circular business model profitable? Because we need to remember that if it's not profitable, it's not sustainable at all. We need to care for the environment, we need to care for the social impacts, and it has to be profitable. So how can we solve this? How can we make circular business models that are profitable and at the same time it cares for the environment and it cares for the social impact? In my experience, we can achieve this through a correct identification of the stakeholders and the evaluation or quantification of the impact on intangibles. Monetizing these intangibles impacts has been a good way to overcome this profit barrier. In the linear circular models, in the linear business models, we need to focus and make a double click on the way the value proposition matches and fits the customer segment that we are aiming at. But in the circular business models, we need to get these stakeholders in the whole model. So every stakeholder has a different perception of valuation or monetization of these impacts that you are producing with your value proposition. And you're being you're being a part of one part of the whole value chain. And that is really important because you're not going to solve a problem with a circular solution or with a circular business model. You need to collaborate. You need to actively link and bond with other participants of the economy. And you have to create a circular business model, not for yourself, for the society. When you do realize that you need other forces in your model to actually be profitable, you realize that you need to monetize the impacts on others that your customer or your suppliers, I mean like the government, the society, the communities. And at the same time, you're going to start to realize another ways of income that are going to make your circular business model profitable. So like they said, we need, when recycling, we need clean plastic. Like they say, we need to care about society. Okay, so let's take this whole value chain. Let's figure out in which part of this value chain I'm fitting in, and I'm introducing some circular strategies. And to make my model and our circular model profitable, let's see how can I add some revenue streams to my model, not directly from the linear way of thinking of my clients, my consumers, or my suppliers, but the other stakeholders that are being impacted by my solution. I think that's a useful way and a practical way to overcome this profit barrier that actually, in my experience, it's the hardest part of a circular business model. Most of the time, it has a correct value proposition. It has a correct value creation, but most of the time they can't find the way to capture this value back to get actually paid for what they're doing, and they're expensive that making it the linear way. I think that it's useful for an answer, Susanna.
Yes, Kristen. Thank you. Thank you for answering that and sharing your experience with us. I'd move on to the next question now. My next question will be to Ms. Shalini. Ms. Shalini, all of us know that ICC has been helping young entrepreneurs to integrating research and innovation in circular practices. You have been designing and developing circular and sustainable business models for organizations, and one of your objectives has been to make global organizations circular. From your experience, can you elaborate how our circular business is evolving?
Sure. Thank you, Susanna. So it was very enlightening to listen to the other panelists and talking about their domain expertise. What I see is there is a lot going around the business models and converting them into circular business models. And the young generation is working very hard to find out how could they actually uh, kind of make their business models more sustainable. And I'm happy to say that the initial focus of circular economy used to be on the plastic waste management, or it used to be on recycling and majorly waste management. So when Rajesh was talking about waste management, it was really sounding very encouraging that there is so much work being done all of a sudden there in other business models as well. But what is happening in last couple of years, the trends are changing, and we are seeing that the circularity, in the use of circularity is increasing beyond plastic and waste management. And I can see a lot of uh, startups coming up with ideas in agriculture. One of the reasons could be that the Indian government is working very hard on agriculture, making agriculture sustainable. Then there is construction, the built environment, the new laws on C&D waste in India particularly, mobility sector, the renewable energy sector, all are gaining some kind of uh, visibility in terms of sustainability. And we are seeing a lot of policy changes as well, which is good and which is a very welcome move by the governments of different countries as well. But having said that, if I were to very specifically enlist the type of business models that are coming up, I would say that I would categorize them majorly in 5 different categories. So one, as we all discuss, is the product life extension, which is basically extending the product life cycle, and the circular economy's principle says about closer loops. So that business model is the first kind of business model that we all can think of when we are talking about it. And I think Neptune pumps is a very good case study of increasing the lifespan of a product, so which is a worth reading kind of a thing. Then the second is recovery and recycling. So a lot of business models have also come up on recycling, but I think recovery and remanufacturing is something that needs a little bit more focus than recycling, because again, on the basis of the circular principles, and recycling is the end solution to it, but remanufacturing and reusing is something which is actually which comes before, is a tighter loop before we get in onto the recycling part. And e-cover is a very good example of such a kind of a case study. I'm just telling you the different kind of products the organizations have supported in building their business models. The third one I see is collaboration and sharing. This is one of the least practiced business model, which basically talks about how products could be collaborated and shared to increase the lifespan. And one of the best example I've come across is Peerby of Netherlands, which is working on a very kind of a niche model in the neighborhood areas where a person can share or collaborate their products with their neighborhood. So, which is again a very good example of collaboration and sharing. Product as a service, we all know, is one of the very important model again. But I think again, this is just, we are working on the tip of the iceberg, and a lot needs to be done in this sector as well. India is yet to come up with mature business models around product as a service. So Philips, as we all know, has been the pioneer in this, and I am looking forward to them developing certain models for India as well in this particular domain. And the last one, I think the fifth one, is the circular supply chains. And the best example that comes to my mind is H&M. H&M has been working very closely with their people, and I'm particularly talking about UK. In UK, they had developed a model where they collect back the clothes from the people, and so reducing their, not I mean, within the stores they have these baskets which collect the used cloth, and they kind of reuse that to make another, or refurbish the cloth in a better way. So that gives another lifespan to the garment. So these are the five major business models that are coming up, and I believe there is a lot of scope into, as I find, collaboration and sharing. India has a huge scope to go forward in collaboration and sharing, not just India, I mean other countries as well. But looking at the numbers in India, I think this will be a very successful model if someone was to come up with this kind of practices. And the circular supply chain is something that needs a little bit more focus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shalini, for sharing your views on circular business models. I'll come back to Dr. Brajesh now. Dr. Brajesh, you have extensively worked from waste management to environmental technologies. What is one specific advice that you would like to give to entrepreneurs working on circular environmental models?
So again, I'll talk about waste management like specifically. And one thing, especially in the waste management sector, is that for the entrepreneurs, you have to be here for a long term. There is no short term, like if you want very low ROI, return of investment, waste management is not going to work for you, because that requires a longer term plan. So you have to be really patient and be here for a longer period of time, and then it will work. And of course, from the, like if you look at from the policy point of view or from the implementation point of view, and especially if you talk about the Indian context right now, we have to have this source segregation in place, either at the house level or at some level before the waste gets totally mixed up and then it becomes totally unusable. So no entrepreneur, no business model will work when you have your like a plastic, paper, all recyclables mixed with some wet waste, and then you have a C&D material, you have road sweepings and everything mixed together, then unfortunately no business model works there. So for the entrepreneurs, I would say that they should insist with the municipality, with the city government, to have proper collection system, so that they get the waste material collected separately, not only from the houses all the way to their plant, and then be there for a longer period of time. If they are there for a longer period of time, see, most of the technology that has been used anywhere else in the world can be used in India as well. The problem what we have in Indian context is our waste is not proper. Like, we don't have the proper feed. We think that it's a garbage, so garbage can be anything. It's not. It's like it's a resource, isn't it? Waste is a misplaced resource. So this resource it's a material. So if it's a material, it's an industrial process. So input to that industrial process has to be cleaner. If the input is not cleaner, how do we expect the output to be better? So for the output to be better, you need to have a clean input, input which is predictable, which is not too much different from day-to-day basis. And so that's what we need to ensure. So entrepreneurs should work with the city government, municipal government, to make sure that that is ensured, and they have to be here for a longer period of time. There are a lot of technologies out there which can work. Say for the right now, the government of India is since 2016 rules, we are saying that we should have the wet waste and dry waste separate. From the wet waste, which is essentially food waste and some other organic matter, if we can keep the plastics and other things away, we have seen in our, like we have a what we developed in our own lab where we have made value-added product from food waste. we have, which is kind of in a circular economy concept. In fact, I was talking with Salini almost, I have to send her to something. I always forget to do that. But where we have, we have developed a value-added product, which is basically a pelletized carbon material, which can be used as a substitute for fuel, for the fossil fuel. We can use that carbon-based material with some further treatment, which we have tested in the lab, for even having a energy storage material. So that can be done for, so but these things, we can do it in the lab with few kgs of waste. I can set up a pilot with maybe some slightly higher amount of waste, maybe 10 kg, 15 kg, 20 kg, which I have a control in terms of the quality of feed coming in. But to do it at a city level, or at a municipal level, it requires the entrepreneur has to be really careful, because unless your feed, again, I'm talking about it again and again and again. I wrote a piece in Economic Times in 2018 January, where the title actually says that for effective waste disposal, segregation is the key. Unless you have the segregation, you have a proper material getting into your industrial process, you cannot have a good working model. So that's what I would say, that's what is needed. That's what, wherever we have seen in the developed countries or in developing countries where there is some success, they have a clean waste coming in. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. And I'm sure the entrepreneurs watching this webinar would benefit a lot from your advice. We come to Gayatri now. Gayatri, you have extensively worked from design to project management and as a consultant. What is one specific advice that you would like to give to entrepreneurs working on circular models in real estate sector?
Okay. So the built environment sector is one of the largest consumers of natural resources and extremely guilty of producing almost 40% landfill waste. So recognizing that it needs to fundamentally evolve with its processes, components, systems, trust me, that will be the first battle won. But truth be told, in all over Europe, we have been seeing gradual change. You know, the models that Shalini was mentioning of shared economy, product life extension, resource recovery, product as a service. But to be honest, the drivers in Europe are both top down and bottom up. The government also is extensively working, and the entrepreneurs and the businesses are as keen. There still remains incredible breadth of opportunity, a large amount of opportunity in India and also in the world to actually build the entire supply chain for the built sector. As my advice to anybody practicing circular economy would be that view it as a business strategy, much more beyond just waste management. And if businesses were to accept that the urgency of addressing linear threats and they just don't use circular economy as a marketing strategy, I'm seeing it more and more when it comes to green buildings. They exploit a profit opportunity and use it as a marketing strategy. So it's an advice that look at addressing the linear threats and not just focusing on exploiting an opportunity. Like the companies that I mentioned before, Ecovative, Cambrian, they've all got patented technologies. So they have the competitive advantage. But like any business, it's going to hold true only in the current landscape. They can enjoy the first mover advantage, but as any business, you'll have to constantly innovate and correspond to trends and needs of the market. I think Christian was mentioning this over and over, that circular economy needs to be a systems thinking approach. You need to understand the whole building life cycle and construction value chain, and only then will you actually see the benefits of circular economy. The other thing that I'd like to mention, while I'm working with companies who want to implement the PSS model, and what I tell them is look at the cost versus benefit. Now, practicing a product service model would require huge investments, and your returns would come over a long period. Sometimes inflation and market volatility is going to diminish the profit. So look at which model you actually want to practice. So again, Christian, stealing a line from your playbook, was circular economy. If you want to maximize value, you need to collaborate. You need to work with other companies. For an example, if you're into refurbishing and maintaining your products, you need a partner who has a tracking facility. You need a partner who's into reverse logistics. So when you look at a model end to end, not just your part in it, you'll make, you'll have the systems approach to implementation, and you'll be able to drive maximum value. There'll be opportunities and challenges at every step, but that goes to say for every businesses. I've cited most of the points that I've seen businesses struggle with, and I hope, they are advantages to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaitly, for your wonderful advice. And I would come to Kristen now. So, Kristen, you have been sustainably linking retail, startups, and ecosystem, and we have been talking about smarter business models. But how would you actually differentiate the current and the new business models and their practices? In other words, what do new business models keep in mind to be circular?
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I've been working in developing and implementing circular business models here in Chile. And it was such an honor to listen to both of panelists talking about Chilean ventures as examples of circular business model. That was great. I'm gonna post it on my LinkedIn right away, finishing this webinar. So I believe that we have a major social crisis here in Chile last year. It hasn't been over yet, and in most Latam, there's been a social crisis. And I think if we look at the brighter side of it, companies start to understand their impact in the ecosystem and their responsibility with society, and not just for the waste from their activity. That's something they didn't even do not so long ago. And I think this change from linear to circular is not an overnight thing. It's a process, and like every process, it takes time. Like I said before, sustainability must be our goal, and circular economy is a path to it. And I like to see sustainability as an absence of crisis. If there's a crisis, whether it's social, whether it's economic, or whether it's environmental, the model is not sustainable. It's a very practical way to look at it, because it leaves aside your political posture, the way you think, the way you do things. It's like, if there's a crisis, we need to update the model we're using to avoid this crisis. And why should we avoid it? Because crises are expensive. So if we take this social crisis, environmental crisis, and monetize it, we have a lot of budget to change things right now for the companies. It's like, if you want to have another one of these crises, this is all the amount of money you're going to lose. So this is the budget we can use to start changing things. That's a way to start a conversation with a large company. And why large companies? Because we need large companies to be part of this change. We can't make it with just ventures and entrepreneurs. No, we can't. We need these large companies. They have the budget, they have the clients, they have the infrastructure we need to develop the circular sustainable value to the market. So I think that the first, and I don't know if it's the most important difference, but the first difference is that can we change a linear model to a circular model? That's a question we always assume. In my opinion, of course, we can change it. We can transform a company business model from linear to circular, but is it practical to have this approach? Like, how can I change this whole company business model? I think in a practical way, and in my experience, it's more useful to circularize it, to have circular strategies in this linear business model of the large companies, because it's cheaper in terms of budget to start changing small processes, a small project, small products or services that trying to change the whole system. Here in Chile, 95% of our companies has not even started this changing from linear to circular. And not because they don't want to, they don't know how to do it, because all they hear about is change your whole business model. And this company is like, I'm the whole month trying to keep my head above the water and have the money to pay to my employees and have the money to pay my taxes and care about the crisis and stay alive. So it's not easy to go to them and say, among all of that stuff you need to worry every month, you have to change your whole model because it's wrong. No, you need to be circular. It's like I want to, I don't know how to start. I don't have the budget. I don't have the time to do it, because you have to think a lot in terms of changing the way you do things. So I found a really interesting way that's been useful here in Chile in the models I've been designing. And it's like, okay, for these large companies, you don't worry about changing anything and you're going to be circular. No, how are you going to do that? It's like, define your problems, your linear problems, and in which link of the value change you have it. Okay, you have a plastic problem in the packaging area. Okay, let's go with this problem to the ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem, the entrepreneur ecosystem, and I can bet you they have a solution, but they don't have a business model to match with you. And that's, I think it's the hardest part of this model I've been developing, because even when you find a problem and a solution and you match them, you need a third party to make this work. You need to develop a circular business model. And as I was telling you before, a circular business model, you can develop it but with your own solution. Your plastic solution, your social solution, your environment solution is not a circular business model. You need to have the whole value chain. And that's a changing concept, because when you start applying circular strategies in a linear value change of a large company, it starts changing from a value change to a value network. And it starts circularizing. And that's a way to make large companies to not change what they do every day, and at the same time being sustainable in what they do. So the basis of it is the active linking and bondage with the ecosystem. When you say Neptuno palms, the circular business model they developed is linked to mining, to large mining companies. Without these large mining companies from one side, the government on the other side, the society in the north part of Chile on side, their solution is not useless. It's useless. When you say when you talk about Algramo, their solution, but their own, doesn't work at all. But they have this alliance with Unilever, this huge alliance with Unilever. They have this part of the alliance with municipalities. They have this alliance with other entrepreneurs and other ventures in logistic and last mile delivery. So it's a whole package that you need to look at. And that's a great story to tell all the entrepreneurs and all the ventures. It's like, okay, stop worrying about how can you develop this circular business model. Start talking with the large companies and with other entrepreneurs, and between you all, you're gonna develop a circular business model. Because if you try to think about it and develop it by your own, wow, it's going to be really exhausted. It's going to be really expensive. Use the resources that are already in the market in other entrepreneurs like yourself and other ventures like yourself, and use the whole resources of large companies. Large companies need your help to develop better products, better process, better services. So they need you, they actually need you. And when you realize that in a circular business model, you're gonna have the same leverage capacity to negotiate. It's not gonna be like in a linear business model when large companies like put the foot on you. I have the power. They don't have it right away, but you don't either. Don't look at large companies like your enemies. Make them part of your solution. Make the government part of your solution. You need to collaborate. And that's something we talk a lot about, but it's not actually being incorporated in the way of thinking when you said how I'm going to sell and get paid back for my solution. It's a great solution, but let's keep in mind that having a great solution, it's not an innovation if the market's not paying for it. And what do we all want? We're not in a profitable crisis, in a profit crisis. Like everyone think it's like there's a lot of social problems here in Chile and Latam because we're in a profit crisis. No, we're not in a social crisis when society feels, believes, and think that a company is delivering sustainable value to the society. They don't even care how much money they earn, how much money they made. They don't care about it. But they don't want companies making money without worrying, without being able to, to deliver sustainable value to the society. So I think that's important to keep in mind. It's not a problem about how much money you want to earn. No one's gonna care if your product or service delivers sustainable value to the society. And I think, in my opinion, and here in Chile and Latam, that's a fact, and that's the best advice I can give you. If you want to make money, make money. And what's the best way to make money? Make circular business model with a lot of stakeholders. If you add more companies, more entrepreneurs, more ventures to your circular models, I can tell you, you're gonna make more money, and it's gonna be a lot easier, and we're all gonna win. I hope that's fine for you for an answer.
Thank you, Christian. It was wonderful to hear you, and you've got wonderful insights and thoughts. I'd move on to the last question now, and that question will be to Ms. Shalini. Ms. Shalini, you have been incubating several startups in waste management and environmental technologies. And as we are talking about advices, what one specific advice would you like to give to entrepreneurs working on circular models?
Okay, thank you, Susanna. It was really nice listening to the panelists with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. It was really nice, and I hope the entrepreneurs here have been learning a lot. So since you've asked me only about one advice, I'm now wondering which one should I talk about? Because when I work on the business models, there are two things that I see. So I'll wind up very quickly and try to answer it in the shortest time possible, Susanna. So one is the startups need to definitely look at and read the policies of their respective countries where they're working in. That is the most important thing, because what is happening is the government policies are changing rapidly, be it EU, be it India, be it US, anywhere. The policy changes related to the circular business model, or something that if you're working in recycling, or you're working in product life extension, or you're working in scrap, you're talking about any kind of recycling model, the policies are changing rapidly. So if you are thinking of business model, I would say the first thing that I would recommend is you read the policies, understand what the policy document says, and how could you build a business model around that? Because often I have seen that people start working on their business models um, without having in-depth knowledge of the policy. So, tomorrow when you were to launch or scale up your business, that becomes a major challenge. A change in policy becomes a major challenge. So build something which is on the latest policy and also considering what probable changes could be in future. Talking to government, talking to the agencies, working on related to your particular domain could be helpful. You will get a lot of information, like Christine said. Please work with government and other collaborations, because everyone is looking out for collaborations. Another aspect is that we all should be open to collaboration, as the SDG 17 keeps on talking about collaboration and sharing. It's one of the most important things. Don't try to build on, don't try to reinvent the wheel. So use collaborations and build on faster and quicker. So that is the other thing. The last thing I would say is the go-to-market strategy, which plays an extremely important role. And I keep talking to all the business entrepreneurs about it. So one thing that they make mistake in is to how to scale their business model once, even if they worked on a minimum viable product. So work on your minimum viable product, but when you're talking about scaling your business models at that particular point of time, you definitely need to consider a good, healthy go-to-market strategy. Whatever it is, work on it openly. And this is where a lot of time I see the startups fail, because they don't have a kind of scaling up strategy of their organization. So keeping in short and precise this, but there was one question in the question and answer session. Somebody was asking about how could I take it, should I think of launching it at a smaller scale or going globally? So I have tried to answer them, telling them that when you're working on a minimum viable product, you should definitely stick to a specific regional zone. Prove your point, make a pilot, and once you've done the pilot, then only think about going globally. Because when you're trying to go global, there are multiple things that you will see. Each country has a different policies, have the different set of regulations, which you will have to abide once you start working in those countries. So going globally, I think, is not a very good idea at the initial stages of your business. But once you have a business model, once you have a viable MVP done and a pilot ready, then you may think of other things. But at the same time, please consider the local laws and regulation. The laws of land, as they say, is very important to consider here. Thank you. I think that is all from my side.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you for your pieces of advice on this. And I would like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Brajesh, Gayatri, Christine, and Shalini again, for your wonderful and enriching open thoughts and industry insights. And I believe it's time to answer some questions from the audience. We already had a lot of questions, and our speakers have answered those. And in case you have more questions, you can use the raise my hand option also, or write it in the chat box, and I will permit you to speak over here. We have a question from Jose for Kristen. Could small businesses start building their circular models before or meanwhile there's this change in large companies? So Kristen, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I think we need to change this way of thinking. Large companies doesn't need to change their model, their business model, if everything they use from their suppliers, if every product they deliver or every service they deliver is circular. How can we do this? Using the ecosystem. They already have this whole structure. They can't, we can't believe they're gonna change. Like, it's really expensive for them. So I think we must think that you're not having a circular business model. You can deliver or develop or sell a circular strategy that it's going to be useful for this company. So of course you can start working on it and sell it to large companies without even care if this large company is changing their business model. If it's circular, if it's useful, they're gonna buy it from you, because it's gonna be like, okay, I have this product or service or supplier that it's linear, it's giving me a lot of trouble with society, with environmental laws, and I have this new product or entrepreneur that is giving me the same but circular and sustainable. Of course I'm gonna go for you. But you don't expect the large company to come to your office or to your house or to your or university or wherever you work in, and knock at your door or send you an email like, wow, you developed a fantastic solution, I want to buy it and I want to use it. It's not going to be like that. You go to the large company with the whole model developed. And what I mean with the whole model, who's going to deliver this product to the large company? You say, oh, okay, that's right. I'm gonna develop a way of delivering it. No, don't develop it. Look around you, look again in the ecosystem. I can bet that you're gonna find a sustainable last mile venture that hasn't been upscaling yet. So you said you think about the whole value chain of your proposition, of your product or your service that you want large companies to buy. And you said, okay, who's going to give me the inputs I need to produce it? Okay, who's going to deliver it to the company? And you go with the whole package to the company. And even more, when you come to the whole package, it's like, okay, you large company don't have to do anything. Here it is, here's the price. Let's talk. Okay, I like it. But you need to know which are these large company stakeholders that are gonna be more affected or more impacted by your circular business model or your circular strategy that you're gonna sell to this company. Why is that? Because maybe it's going to be a little expensive, and it's like the large company is going to say, I don't want to change anything of what I'm doing. It's been a really bad day that you came to. I have a lot of problems, so I don't want anything. But if you can show that with your solution, you're going to be helping them solve problems with their stakeholders, they're going to say like, wow, you make my day. I want your product. And even more, in this product, I'm not just buying this product for you. I'm helping 4 or 5 small companies, small venture entrepreneurs. It's gonna give me a lot of real good marketing, because the large company is not gonna make it. The small, every one of these small companies is gonna talk good things about this large company, and they love it. So it's like I said, it's like a social or business judo. It's like using the other one's resources and forces for your own good. So yes, develop and work in your solution, but not your solution may be a circular strategy. If you don't incorporate other companies, other ventures, and have the whole model, it's not a circular business model. Of course, in my opinion.
Thank you, Christian, for answering that. And I hope Joe's question is answered. Ms. Goma Joshi was raising her hand. So I'll permit her to ask a question now. Ms. Goma, would you like to ask your question? Okay, we'll wait for her to ask. Until then, I think Mr. Animesh Ghosh had a question previously, which said, "How do you see technological advancement in logistics and supply chain management for a green recovery post-pandemic?" And Shalini and Kaitly were answering that. So he has another question. That's true, but how well developing countries like India is prepared? Any good examples from developing countries? So would any of the speakers would like to take that?
Sure. When we talk about, I think your second part of the question, I'm assuming animation is also related to the logistics, because we've been discussing about the technological advancement in logistics. Is that right, Animesh? Are you asking about still the logistic part, right? Okay, so what I believe is when it comes to logistics, uh, there are efforts from the Indian industry to work. Yeah, Animesh, please.
Yeah, absolutely. You have correctly identified.
Okay.
So I would be interested in knowing like how country like developing country like India is well prepared in the in the logistic sector, and how they're dealing with the entire value chain at the same time supply chain, and to what extent they have come across in circular economy. If some good examples are there, so it would be great if you can share about it.
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
So, Animesh, there are a lot of efforts happening from the government as well as from the industry side to include reverse logistics. The best example would be the collaboration between the three top bottling manufacturers, Coca-Cola, Bisleri, and Pepsi, when they started working with UNDP and they started working on collecting the plastic bottles back. It was a part of their EPR, and EPR plays an extremely important role in the reverse logistics. So EPR being a very important, Christian, for your information, EPR is the extended producer responsibility, which has been implemented in India. The idea was to kind of make industry responsible for what they're producing, and there are certain set of regulations that they have to abide to. Now, coming back to it, yes, there are initial few examples, and the best I could see is this collaboration of three, which is working, and it's a very good kind of response that we have seen in the market. But at the same time, I think there is a huge scope of developing the reverse logistics when it comes to any. I'm not talking about any particular sector, but all sectors, be it the metal scrap. The reverse logistic again is something that is needed at a very, very large scale, be it the construction and demolition waste, which is generated and is dumped currently, but which could be recycled. And I'm sure Gayatri can explain how it could help in building up circular business models. There is a huge potential, and we need to do a lot of work if in India particularly. And when it comes to the technological thing, I think there are certain, I'm seeing innovations happening around the technological advancement. As I said, uh, I happen to be on Halt Prize judging panel, and I saw there are startups coming up who are thinking of reverse logistics. And someone during the panel discussion very rightly said, waste is a misplaced resource. I think, Rajesh, it was your statement, and I really noted that down, because yes, very rightly talking about waste is a misplaced resource. It's nothing else. I mean, waste is not waste, waste is not trash. So a reverse logistic will gain and is gaining, but it needs a huge investment in terms of by the industry, by the entrepreneurs as well. I would be happy if any other panelists would be interested to answer this question.
All right, I hope that Mr. Nilesh got your question answered. If we have any more questions coming up, we can take one more. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or type it in the question and answer box. Okay, since there are no more questions, I think we'll call it a day here. Once again, sincere thanks to you all for your valuable presence. We really appreciate your taking time to participate in the event. And we look forward to seeing you all in our next session, which is on 15th January on the topic Renewable Energy, a Circular Alternate. And you can visit our website and register for the same. It's been a pleasure being with all of you today. I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank
Susanna.
you.
was great to be
Thank you,
here.
Brajesh. Thank you, Gayatri, Christian,
Thanks so
Susan.
much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.